I watched the Netflix Bling Ring documentary. The Real Bling Ring Hollywood Heist is, I think, the official title. And essentially how I got on this journey was I had 5 minutes of downtime. And, I just opened up Netflix thinking maybe I'll just watch a little bit of Arrested Development just to pass that time. And I see, number 2 trending, the Bling Ring. I was like, okay, well, all right, well, what's this all about? I'll just check it out and never watch it. And then I just got hooked, right? The side to me that I know is there's oftentimes I'll consume works of art, whether it's books, movies, TV shows, whatever, and some of it might just be uninspiring, some of it might just be average, and then there's stuff that when it stands out to me, I become obsessed. Whether it's the Matrix for me growing up was a prime example. That trilogy was so formative. I was so diehard. I just get an obsessive personality, and it's it's part of why I'm able to make the art that I do, is because when I fixate on doing a project, I'll carry it through to its better end no matter what. And in this regard, I watched the Bling Ring. They're about an hour each in terms of 3 episodes, right? So limited series, 3 episodes, about an hour each, chronicling this group of teenagers from 2008, 2009, where they robbed celebrity houses like Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, Orlando Bloom, and so forth. And what's interesting about this one is essentially they have 2 of the teenagers, quote unquote, they're now adults, but they were teenagers back then. And they're essentially telling their side of the story. And watching this documentary, it's just unhinged. The best way I can describe it, that is the word I can use to describe this documentary. It is unhinged. Now, many people are quick to point out how heinous it is that essentially you're allowing criminals, because they pled no guilty to these burglaries, that essentially we're glamorizing these people who were criminals. But there's so much more to it than that, because everyone involved in the documentary is unhinged and equally as culpable. Now, did they rob and stuff like that? No. But, and what I mean by this is, you have people from the tabloids talking about that side of it and how, sensational it got. And it's well, the reason why it even happened was because they sensationalized celebrity lifestyles, and these kids want to be part of that. That's what got fed into us, and certainly into them in a very hardcore way. You had the reality TV producers for Alexis Nayer's show, Alexis being one of the members of the Bling Ring, who were talking about straight up that when their arrest was made, now they knew they had a show, and they talked about fabricating certain events for the sake of the reality show. And then you had the lawyers who quite openly pretty much literally they admit that they wanted to be famous. And they did certain things that were compromising in that way. The lead detective, he compromised everything because he himself was a consultant to Sofia Coppola's Bling Ring movie, and therefore, this was still an ongoing investigation, and therefore, in a court of law, it jeopardized, in terms of bringing convictions to some of the people. It's insane. And, for all it's worth, everyone pled no guilty, but, and they were charged with stuff, but really, no one carried out that drastic of sentences, or at least That's certainly the way it seems, right? Like that is you can look that as a big takeaway. You know, the way within the movie that they were essentially doing this like counter of, you know, how much jail time, you know, each of the crimes was, and obviously not everyone was involved in all the crimes, but at one point it was like pretty much like 50 years worth of, you know, jail time should have been sentenced. And, you know, like the main person, Rachel Lee, ended up doing about 2 years overall. And it's like, so in that sort of grand scheme of things, there were no consequences. And like, these are white kids, essentially, with the exception of Rachel. And you could see, like, if it was a group of like black teens, they would have been looked at as just heinous criminals instead of having like a Netflix documentary and being able to tell their side of the story. I mean, hell, they might not even be alive, right? Like, I mean, that's just the reality of America that we live in. And so I just look at it completely unhinged in this way. And much like sort of Gabor Mate talks about how disease is a process, you don't have cancer. Like, that cancer developed itself, but it's not a part of you. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, but, you know, I'm doing it kind of just a very bare bones injustice of that, you know. But for me, I like to look at like how we essentially got to that point, right? And certainly like as a culture, fetishizing just celebrity culture and not even talent, just like, you know, influences and so forth, and like the fact that it's culminated to having a reality star president, like that's a natural. It just continues to be an extension of like that side of it, right? And when I think about it too, like, we don't glamorize good behavior. Like the steadfast person who just, you know, okay, portrays good morals. You know, yes, they might find success in life. It's not really about that, but it's not the thing that gets attention. And really, we live in an attention economy, and you know, we, like, again, these are the people that have a Netflix documentary, right? And I'm not, like, that's the other side of it. Like, you know, it doesn't really talk about their rehabilitation, you know, in the end. That's part of, like, you know, a lot of the reaction seems to be like that they don't have remorse for what they stuff now, that they did. Now, again, they're adults now. This is years removed. So they could have gotten through it, and, you know, it could be in some ways, you know, a testament to the rehabilitation process. Like, ultimately, that's what you would want a criminal justice system to be, is to take people and be like, okay, you know, you did something bad. The time that you serve is meant to make you reflect and get you to change to be a good person that is valuable to society, quote unquote, right? But that aspect of it wasn't really discussed. I mean, if not at all, really. And certainly the people there didn't seem to have remorse. So it's like we're, in a weird way, we're just teaching all these lessons of just that we shouldn't be learning. And it's cyclical because that's the lessons that essentially they were taught, you know, when they were consuming the media that they consumed. And it's just been fascinating to me. Like, I would love to examine this and just hold up a mirror. Like, this to me is the true LA story. You know, film noir is an amazing genre and I love it. And certainly when it comes to LA, Chinatown and LA Confidential are like two fantastic movies. Sunset Boulevard, like, you know, LA has, and Hollywood has been like that gritty side of it has been captured really well. And yet this is like, this aspect of it, as I see it, is this is like the LA story. the chasing of fame and glory and, stealing and so forth. And like, even the victims themselves, the celebrities, like, the reason why this was able to be pulled off, and I'm not victim blaming, but there's a side to me where you just go of like, you thought you were better, and then it couldn't happen to you, right? Where essentially like they left their doors unlocked. That's how these people got in. Just the doors were unlocked. And so, yeah, I just want to kind of examine and hold up a mirror to this, and because like if I was a Gen Z person or like just a young kid in general today, whether like I look at WeWork, Elizabeth Holmes, Donald Trump, January 6th, these kids and so forth, Firefest, it's like nothing, A, has meaning, and B, there's no consequences to any of it. Not really. At least it's not like, sure, the consequences could be there, but that side of it is never really highlighted, at least from the media perspective, right? And so what I would love to do one day, and by the way, listen, this is an idea. You are welcome to steal it if you want. I would just love to see this. Certainly I could execute it in a different, even if like two people have the same outline, the way they execute it could lead to two completely different things. I mean, certainly there's two Bling Ring movies and they're vastly different. There's the Sofia Coppola one, and then there's the one that stars Austin Butler, which was made in 2011 by Lifetime, I think. I haven't seen that one actually. But yeah, I mean, they're talked about as being completely different, right? Because of and yet based on the same story. But anyway, I digress. The point being that I would love to examine this aspect and sort of hold up a mirror to real society and the attention economy, where you have young kids that are observing life in this way. And yeah, the natural conclusion being nothing matters and there's no consequences. And what do they do with this? Like with this information and the fact that they find inspiration from the original Bling Ring crew, because while they were caught, they were kids, right? So it essentially shows like all the other stuff is like successful people getting away with just heinous crimes right in front of our eyes. And not really, but this was like the kids, and them really going about it of like, okay, well, what's the lessons we can learn here where we don't get caught? And then, they just kind of keep escalating it because they don't get caught. And at a certain point, like they test the waters to try to get caught, and yet they don't. And it would just be very interesting to me in that way. And tie in like the media aspect of it and so forth. So it's not just about the kids, because especially like about Sofia Coppola's The Bling Ring, they're just really caricatures. Like there's no character depth to them. And not that my goal is to like empathize with anyone, but it really, as I saw with the Bling Ring documentary, everyone was just unhinged. And it's like, who's patient zero? Where's the nexus point for all of this? And I want to show kind of like the logical conclusion of that and really make people reflect. And like, that would be my idea. And, that would be a lot of fun. And so that's kind of what I've been thinking about, and why I'm very grateful. This whole reason how I like got into this was, I'm grateful that I have this ability to look at something in a different way and find some sort of meaning, at least for myself. And I think if done right, it could resonate with people. I mean, Sofia Coppola, her movie, I don't love it, but it actually does resonate with a lot of people, right? So, and that's because she had a certain point of view, and she knew what that point of view was and the story that she was going to tell. Which ties back to the James Cameron quote that I opened up my blog with, of, I feel that my job is to protect their investment, often against their own judgment. But as long as I protect their investment, all is forgiven, right? So it all kind of oddly comes full circle in that way. And yeah, I just kind of want to expose the truth of it all, because I think too many people, we're all very quick to point a finger and identify the wrongdoings of other people, but we don't really reflect upon that ourselves. And that's something that I'm interested in. And in a way, like for me, the journey has been, if I can see that within society, I can try to understand it better and see it within myself. That's been kind of at least my approach to it all, right?